So I'm going to spend some time today talking about leading transformation, as Vince mentioned, organization and cultural change. As all of us have been through big companies, small companies, we know that as we think about doing these types of things, they're never very easy. And it takes a lot of work and effort. And one of our previous speakers talked about, when culture meets strategy, culture wins every single time. It's absolutely fundamentally true. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. And then, knowing kind of what, you all have been doing the past couple of days and what you have left today and tomorrow around transformation, around transforming your companies and transforming the partnerships that you have and how do you go to market, and then fundamentally transforming the relationship that you and Juniper have with your customers. I'm hoping that some of the insights will help you as you move forward. So, when you have a new leader, when someone comes in and they're brought in because fundamentally the organization needs to move from where they are today to where the company or the CEO or the board or whoever believes they need to go, it's an exciting time, right? You have new energy. You have new investments. You have new alignment. You have people that are coming in to make this change, and they want you to succeed. They want the company to succeed. They want the stock price to go up, right? It's just a really good and fun time, right? And yet, many of these transformations fail. Even with all that focus and attention and money. And so as I've gone through my kind of career and I've had the opportunity to do transformations, I came upon this concept of inertia. And so for those of us that were in high school science, we learned about inertia. The concept is basically this: objects at rest tend to stay at rest, and objects in motion tend to stay in motion, unless acted on by an outside force, right? You all maybe remember that? And I realized, at the time I understood the scientific principles of it. I didn't quite understand how then it translated back to organizational and cultural change until I went through my first transformation opportunity years ago. And I went into that job, and I met all the right people. I talked to my folks. I built a strategy, right? And I went to go execute. And yet, I wasn't able to move the dime at the pace that I felt I could and should have, that the business felt we should have. And the reason for that was because that inertia that was in the company, in the team, in the organization, had to be moved with significant force. And I myself couldn't be that force. One man, one woman can't do it, right? And one of the reasons for that is that people and organizations have become immune to all the talking heads, all the organizational changes, all the pep rallies, all the restructures, all of the downsizings. And so they just wait things out. They're just there to see you through, because they will last longer than you. They've been there 30 years. You think you're going to change it? And so that immunity, that jaded concept, right, sets in. And that's why many transformations fail. So today, I want to talk a little bit about what you could do, or what you should do, or what you have to do. So the first thing is you just have to do what you have to do. So as a new leader, and one of the things I want to be thoughtful about here is you may be a leader of an organization of 100,000 people, 5,000 people, 500 people, or 5 people. All of these concepts, I'm hopeful, are applicable to each and every one of you. So build your 100-day plan. Figure out who your customers are. Understand your products and services. Determine how well you're delivering those products and services, either externally to the marketplace or internally to your customer base that's in the organization, right? Figure out, do the SWOT analysis. Figure out where your broken glass is. Finish your 100-day plan. Come up with your strategy, your vision, your mission. Do your org changes. Those are all table stakes. You have to do those things. If you don't, you will most likely 100% fail. So you have to do those things. And then do these other things that I'm going to talk about in the next few slides. So I'm going to start off with the touchy-feely, new age guru item. Always do things from the heart. Again, people are jaded. They've given up on believing. And so someone that comes in and does this can start moving that inertia. So I'm going to ask you to think about a time when you met someone, right? And in that first meeting, you knew. You just knew that as soon as you were done in that meeting, you had to go home and shower and cleanse yourself of that person. It's that used car, dirty salesman trying to sell me a lemon feeling, right? Now think of a time when you met someone and you just intrinsically knew this was someone you could trust. This was someone you wanted to trust, that you wanted to do stuff with and for. That person spoke to you from his or her heart. They made you feel as though you mattered, and they were going to serve you, right? And so as you think about your first days, or your second days, or your 500th days, as you think about what you've done the last couple of days, and how do you move forward, and how do you take these concepts and these perspectives and these partnerships forward, think about doing it from the heart and with good intent. In every conversation, you will start moving your organization. And it actually has the side benefit of making you feel good about yourself. So, servant leadership is a concept that's something that I just love. Most of my perspectives on it come from a book that I've read multiple times now, from an author named James Hunter. And it's called The Servant. Quite literally, it's called The Servant. And what I found in organizations that just get it is that you have leaders and folks that believe in serving the business and serving their colleagues. And they are fundamentally transformative in how they do that. Now, over the years, when I talk about this, oftentimes, and you'd be surprised at how often this happens, people will come to me and say, I'm no one's servant, and you aren't going to get me to change that, right? So I have to have this feedback with them to say, what do you actually mean by being a servant and serving the business and serving your colleagues? And so as leaders, first and foremost, we have to realize we're sales and marketing people. All of us, right? So in this room, there's a ton of sales people, right? But any leader, any individual, we are sales and marketing people. Because that's how we communicate. That's how we get buy-in. That's how we tell people how we're going to go to market as an organization, right? And in that role, we have to do two things. We have to be a trusted advisor, and we have to be a customer advocate. As a trusted advisor, when you go into a new role, when you go into a new sales opportunity, you have to know more about your customer, your organization, your people, than they know about themselves. So if it's a sales opportunity, you better know that company inside out, know their financials, know their business strategy. You better have read their annual report. That annual report will tell you what the board and the CEO are thinking, where they're going to make their investments, what the growth strategy is, which channels they're going to attack, which geographies they're going to invest in, right? Know those things. Work to understand those individuals you're serving. How long have they been there? Where do they come from? Who else do they know? What is their business agenda? What is it that they care about that they have sold to their bosses that they're going to get gold on, that they're going to get bonused on? and then talk in that language. And if you ever earn the opportunity to ask someone for their personal agenda, not their business agenda, their personal agenda, why do they exist? Why are they doing what they do? What does this help them enable and fulfill in their lives? If you can get that, take it, keep it to yourself, never share that with anyone, because that is the most confidential piece of information anyone would share with you. And if you believe you can serve that personal agenda, do so. If you can't, tell them that. But if you serve that personal agenda, if you deliver on that for that individual, you will have a partner, a confidant, a friend for the rest of your life. So once you've been that trusted advisor, once you've figured out what you're trying to do to help serve that individual, that company, that organization, become their customer advocate. Build a plan. Communicate that plan. Internally, externally, with the customer's organization, with your organization. Figure out the investments you need to make. Get alignment, get alignment and get the people to commit to it on your side. Get your executive leadership to say, yes, we are going to spend that money, and these are the outcomes we're going to get from it. Then start executing on it. So internally, how do you execute? You need to give your vision of what you're doing, why you're doing it. And you got to tell your people what's in it for them. Each and every one of them. And then you help support them. So we've all seen these kind of triangle type of things before, right? In general, you'll have a hierarchy where the CEO is on top and then the people are at the bottom, right? And then your customers below them. But eventually, everyone's looking up at the CEO, but away from their customer. So this model is one where the CEO should be supporting his organization. The VPs then support the directors and managers up to the point where you actually support the people that do all the work. Because none of us really do anything, right, at the end of the day, right? And so you support your people, you get them what they need, you help them with escalations, you clear roadblocks, you get things done, right? And so I'm going to give you a couple perspectives. So if you think about yesterday and the day before and today and what you'll be doing next, what will you do differently today to become a trusted advisor of your customers? What will you be doing differently to become their customer advocate so you can transform them, you can transform your company, and you can transform the industry? Think about that. And I'll give you an example. 4 or 5 years ago, so I came from, before I joined Aon, I was with the service provider for a number of years. And we had a client, a very large global client of ours, that was going through a fundamental organizational business and IT transformation. IT had historically not mattered much to the company. But they were changing that, and they were moving, they're in the quick service restaurant space. They were moving to enable a number of things in their restaurants, which depended then on IT. And so we had a really good organization, good team that was focused on kind of legacy enterprise, keep mainframes and servers and systems up. But we needed just new leadership to come in, and so they asked me to come in. And so as we thought about that trusted advisor role, it was all about learning their business, right? So they were a quick service restaurant. You know, one of the first things I did coming in is I had my leadership team go in and spend 2 days in their restaurants. They made fries, they worked the drive-thru, mopped the floors, worked the POS systems. Because we had to fundamentally understand what a restaurant manager and the crew went through every single day. Until we really got that, we weren't going to be a viable partner in the restaurant space because we couldn't talk the language. We couldn't empathize with what they were going through. And so we did that. And really, the enterprise was an area of growth, but it wasn't where we really wanted to be. The restaurants where we were going to grow. But we did that. We understood their strategy. We aligned so far to the extent that this company, their strategy was based on the 5 Ps of marketing. For those of you that know that, people, place, product, price, and promotion. We had our own strategy was based on our 5 Ps to enable their 5 Ps. So if you think about it, the CEO had a plan based on the 5 Ps. Their global CTO had a plan based on those 5 Ps, and we had the same plan that enabled both of those. When we went in to talk to any leadership with that client, we were fundamentally aligned. We could have a conversation in their terms, and we could show them how every dollar we invested in them, and then every dollar we were asking back for revenue, helped enable their strategy, helped them meet their goals, helped them meet their revenue objectives. And in the IT services industry, which is, for many of you that know, is not a really high growth environment, we grew 50% in less than 3 years, right? And so those are some of the work to serve. Always serve your customers, always serve your people. Have passion. Why live? Why do what you do if you're not going to be passionate about it? As a leader, as a sales professional, never forget that you're on stage. People listen to every word you say, and they look at every action you take. Then they talk about it to each other. They gossip about it. They create rumors about it. So never forget that. But take advantage of it. Right? Take advantage of that. Because if you do, if you have that passion, and you start moving things, you will start moving that inertia from objects at rest to objects in motion. So I'll give another science example, which now will help you truly understand that I'm a geek. When I was in high school, again, we learned about, water molecules. Not very sexy. Probably not something you want to talk about right now. But if you remember that video, or it wasn't a video, it was the movie projector. There's water, it's cold water. And the water molecules in cold water don't move. They just sit there, right? But then you put heat in that glass, and you'll start seeing one molecule move, right? And then it hits another molecule, and then that moves, right? And then you heat up more, and you put more and more force and pressure on there, right? And now those water molecules are hitting each other, they're accelerating, and as they accelerate and hit other water molecules, they start accelerating. And so again, if you think about inertia, organizational transformation, cultural transformation, your passion can help you move those molecules. And as you do that, others will start moving, and they'll start helping you with that organizational and cultural transformation that you need to do. You don't have to lift all of those heavy weights by yourself. You can't. You will fail if you try to. Right? And so, if you think about being on stage, in my 14 months old at Aon, in my first week, my first day, I walked out of my office and I just started walking the floor. Met everybody that I was on the team. Hi, I'm Munu. I'm new to Aon. I knew that they knew I was the new guy, right? I knew they knew I was their boss. But I'm new to Aon. This is what I'm doing. Tell me what you're all about, right? In that first week, we did a global town hall. And I talked to them about the fact of why I came here. What interested me in Aon. I talked about the fact that I was the 5th guy in 2 years in that seat. And that I came from a 12-year career at another place, and I didn't leave that to be the 5th guy in 2.5 years, right? I joked to them about the pool they had set up, about how long I'd last, because there was one of those, right? But we started that engagement, started getting them feeling that we were going to change, we were going to do things. And at the end of that first week, so I had a colleague on the team who I'd gone to college with, actually. He sends me this IM, and he's like, hey, dude, because that's what we talked like in college. Hey, dude, I just want you to know, that people are starting to say things. Like, they're kind of getting excited, right? And so in that first week, I was able to get the team and the global organization to think, maybe, just maybe, this guy's different. That's all. But that was a great first step, right? And some of that comes through because of passion. So Oftentimes you see leaders, they come in, right, and they do their 100-day plan, and they come back with a strategy and a vision. And it's this 3-year fantastic roadmap, right? And you go from today to tomorrow to the next day, and then you get all the way to 3 years. And in it, the stock price is up 200%, revenue's up 50%, earnings are up 75%. But yet we actually, how do I go from here to there? Right? And so when you're doing your planning, when you're thinking about transformation, have the 3-year plan. You need to have something that you can guide people towards, right? But make sure you're continually challenging everything you do today and figure out how you can transform it tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. Don't wait for a huge milestone down the line. You, as a new person in an organization, need to quickly create trust and credibility and respect. One of the ways of doing that is by starting this process. Make things happen, make change, make positive change. It builds currency for you. And as you build that currency in the organization, when you're doing the really big things, the really hard things, the milestones that will actually fundamentally transform what you're trying to do, you will need that currency. Because things will go wrong. You'll need more money. You'll need more resources. And if you've built credibility that this guy or gal can deliver, you'll get that. You'll leverage that currency for the big rocks that matter. This seems simple. And I'm not going to talk too much about this outside of build the relationships. You have to do that. I'll give one perspective that's been a little bit different for me as I've gone into new organizations. So you have the normal functional org chart, right? CEO, his or her directs, their directs, managers, the people that do stuff, right? And oftentimes people look at that and say, okay, so I need to make a decision, and I need someone who's going to give me money. I'm going to go to that guy or gal. And then they get rejected because organizational dynamics don't work always in that functional org chart. And when you go to an organization like mine at Aon, where we had 3 really large business units that have been in business for a really long time, you find people that have been there 15, 20, 30 years, right? And so one thing I'll ask, and this is something that when you do it, you create a spreadsheet, you password protect it, and you never share this with anybody else. But in every meeting you have, you figure out who that person is, how long they've been there, who hired them, who's worked for them. Are they married to someone in the company? Who don't they like? Who do they want to take out? And you document all of those things because you have to figure out those informal networks, those decision matrix things that no one talks about, but everyone kind of knows about. And if you understand those things and you figure out how to navigate that terrain, you will have a better chance of success. You will know who the key people are to influence. You will know who the people are that have killed previous transformations, who have taken your predecessors out. And you will figure out, how do I get them on board or how do I neutralize them? Create that spreadsheet. Password protect it. But create the spreadsheet. And then finally, this is the simplest thing, so hard, and the reason why executives change every single day. They don't deliver on what they said they would. If you say you're going to do it, do it. If you have a transformation strategy and you've sold it to your leadership, to your customers, and to your people, execute on it. Make things happen. Build your credibility, trust, respect. Develop that currency. Deliver on what you've done, and you will get the opportunity to do more. And when you do that more, because you will have done all of these other things, you will have an organization behind you that is in motion, that you just have to then apply a little bit of more force to continue moving it forward. Thank you.